How's it going, guys? Adam from Cover 3 Media here. We got ourselves a 2023 NFL mock draft. We're going 3 rounds today, guys. I just don't see the point of going past the 3rd round in today's video. I think once the NFL Combine comes out, we can extend that at least a couple more rounds. But today we're just going to focus on 3 rounds, some of the most important rounds for fantasy football. But again, this is more focused on the NFL mock draft itself. There are fantasy hypotheticals. We could use this mock draft in future fantasy mock drafts. But today, again, we're going over a hypothetical situation, how the NFL draft could pan out. We're going to do a couple trades here that I could see reasonably happening. I'll show you guys that on this video. I'm using this nice website, NFL Mock Draft Simulator on NFLMockDraftDatabase.com. It's a pretty good simulator. PFF has one as well. I like PFFs because, you can trade players for picks. This one, you can only trade picks. Kind of a limitation, but I think you can work your way around it. I'll tell you how and why how I work around that. So yeah, guys, the one reason I'm not using PFF is because I don't think the rankings are updated quite as much as this one is, and I think they don't have Kayshon Boutte in that, and I want to have Kayshon Boutte for the sake of fantasy football because that's what we do here at Cover 3 Media. Now, guys, I will preface this by saying I know more about the offensive fantasy relevant players for this mock draft. I still need to do more research on some of these defensive players. I've done enough, but not as much as I'd like to. I am going to be doing more research into IDP players for fantasy down the line. So we'll have more of that getting into it. We will have more of the IDP videos and more of the IDP incorporation once the NFL Combine comes out, once that happens. So guys, I'm going to get started right away and show you what I'm looking at on my screen. All right, so here you can see I'm going to select all teams. I'm drafting for all teams today. We're doing 3 rounds, so I'll scroll down. We got the 2023 NFL Draft Class, 3 rounds. We got the pre-draft menu here. Normal, speed, doesn't really matter because we're not auto picking. But I'm going to enter the draft room. It's on the bottom. You can't see. It's loading up. Here we go. Now I'm going to start off with doing my pre-draft trades that I think will happen, or just knocking them out of the way. We're going to do right away. Chicago is going to trade down with the Indianapolis Colts here, guys. I think this is a totally reasonable move for the Chicago Bears. I genuinely think, if we're being reasonable here, guys, the Colts are going to trade away, the first, 2nd, and the 6th. I think that'd be enough. It's saying it's not enough here, so I'm just going to add in a 2nd round in 2024 to force it through. But I think this is a reasonable trade for the Chicago Bears. I think they got to do a trade like this. I don't think they trade down any further than the 4th overall pick with the Colts, because they will still have an opportunity to get their hands on a top end, defensive talent that is Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. I think it's those 2 guys, well and head and shoulders above everyone else in this class as far as defense is concerned. So I think they still want to get their hands on one of those prospects, and to do that, they traded back with Indianapolis Colts. I think there's going to be some leverage on both sides. Chicago saying, hey, you're getting Bryce Young, your future franchise star, and the Colts are saying, well, hey, you can still get your hands on a top level prospect with our pick. So we're not going to give you as much as you would want because of that, someone else trade up to get that number 1 overall pick. So this is what it's looking like here, guys. I think it's a good trade for the Bears. Maybe instead of doing picks here, they do a player. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to do picks for this one. So right off the bat, we can see that this is the first 7 picks. Another trade I'm going to, hypothetically move through here, guys, is the Raiders and Packers. I have done this mock draft before. It won't let me do this trade with picks on here for some reason. So I'm just going to show you a little snapshot of the trade I'm thinking of with a PowerPoint slide right now. And then another pre-draft, any other pre-draft trades I think would be the Las Vegas Raiders sending over Derek Carr to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for like a 2nd round pick this year, a 2nd round pick next year, and a 4th round pick in this NFL draft this year. That's something I'll have to do as well. I'll show you a little bit of a presentation slide right here. I'm gonna try to get that incorporated during the draft. So let's just get right into it, guys. There's gonna be some trades in the draft that you're gonna see. I'm gonna put some chapters in this video so you can, skip ahead whatever you wanna do to whichever round, but let's get after it. All right, guys, I'm gonna click start on this draft. We can see in the bottom left that we have a little bit of a leaderboard here, who we can select based on rankings. I mean, obviously you can select whoever you want, but that's the rankings there. We see the Colts have 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. These are their team needs from greatest to least, left, right. Then we have a little bit of a filter option here. We can filter out which players we want to look at. And then we have a good old, who's on deck up there. So let's get it rolling with the Indianapolis Colts. I think they go ahead and take Bryce Young here. I don't think they trade up to the number 1 pick just to get, CJ Stroud, guys. I think they're going for Bryce Young, franchise quarterback. I am more of a fan of Bryce Young. CJ Stroud, I still think is a good prospect, but I just don't think, Colts trade up to number 1 to take him. So now we got Houston. Houston's going to go ahead and take CJ Stroud, number 2. Arizona Cardinals are going to go after Will Anderson, an electric edge rusher at the top here. And then Chicago is still going to get their hands on Jalen Carter, a great prospect for their team, and they get assets on top of it. So it seems to work out perfectly in this mock draft. I don't see why they wouldn't do this trade in the NFL draft come May, so April, May. So now we got the Seattle Seahawks. They need an edge rusher here, guys, defensive lineman, maybe a corner. I personally think they could use an edge rusher for the pass rush. I think they can get their hands on a defensive lineman maybe later in the draft, especially with these 2 absolute studs on the board. I think they're going to go Myles Murphy here. So number 5, Myles Murphy for the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Detroit, they need a cornerback. They need a defensive lineman. I think they go with a corner to help their passing game or passing defense. I think that's more of a need right now is coverage. So Christian Gonzalez, I think that's a decent pick for them. Now remember, Las Vegas traded their pick to the Packers for Aaron Rodgers. So now that Packers have this pick, I think that they go after one of these top tackles here with Peter and Paris Johnson. I think they go after Peter because Peter can play tackle, but he can also play guard. I think Paris is more of a true tackle. So I think the Packers go after an offensive lineman here to improve their offensive line, improve their depth, and just to cover for, Bakhtiari with all of his injuries, and who knows how long his career is going to last, especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves in this scenario. So let's look after the Atlanta Colts, Atlanta Falcons. Let's look after the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're going to go with, edge rusher, defensive line, maybe a corner here. But when Tyree Wilson is on this board still at number, 8 overall, I think they're going Tyree Wilson. So there we go. Carolina, they're going to need a quarterback here. I don't think they take Will Levis. I personally think they would take Anthony Richardson. If they were me and I was a GM, I'd go after Anthony Richardson as well. I think he's got the higher ceiling for somebody's franchise. I know he's a raw talent, needs time to develop, so I think they're a franchise that needs more time anyways. So I wouldn't think Will Levis with a lower ceiling and a more immediate impact is really the avenue they should be taking right now. They should be taking Anthony Richardson, who might be a year or 2 project from being great. And I like that landing spot a lot. So Philadelphia, I think they honestly need a cornerback as well here. I agree. Devin Witherspoon is a great pick here for them. But Joey Porter's there as well. So I'm going to go with Joey Porter. Sorry, guys, this might not be the best view. But Joey Porter here is up on the board for Philadelphia. So Tennessee's on the clock. They need an offensive tackle, maybe a wide receiver, or an inside offensive lineman. I don't think they go with a receiver just yet. I think they can snag one at pick 41. Even though Quentin Johnston's there, I just think they need to stick to what they do best right now is running the ball with Derrick Henry and helping him because he might have a longer career than we think. So I'm going to go after the true tackle, Paris Johnson Jr. for the Tennessee Titans. I think that's a fantastic pick. Now, Houston Texans on the board again here. I think they're going to bypass Quentin Johnson, even though I think he's the best wide receiver in this class. In my mind, I think they're going to go after a guy who has more of a tool set, and that's Jackson Smith and Jigba. JSN, pair him up with CJ Stroud. They got that college connection, a lot of NFL GMs are starting to do that more, and they're finding the appeal of that. So JSN, I think that's a great pick for the Houston Texans at pick 12. He doesn't follow them at their next pick, so they got to get him here now. Now the Jets, they need a tackle, safety, inside offensive lineman or linebacker, and maybe a corner. I think a corner would be fantastic for the Jets right here. They get Devin Witherspoon, a little bit of a reach, but not too much, and help Sauce Gardner on the other side of the ball. So I think that's great for their passing defense. Now, the New England Patriots, what do they do here? Do they go after a tight end? Do they go after a receiver? Do they go after defense? I think they help out Mac Jones. And how do they help him out? With Quentin Johnson. I think they bypass Michael Mayer here. I don't think it's the greatest landing spot for Michael Mayer with the New England Patriots. I know Bill Belichick kind of likes his tight ends there, but hey, I think Quentin Johnson has a bigger appeal to Michael Mayer. They go after Quentin Johnson at pick 14. They'd be crazy not to. Now Green Bay. Do they go after a receiver here in the first round while they have the opportunity? I don't like Jordan Addison as a prospect as much. I don't think he deserves. I don't think he should be picked by the Packers here. I would not like that pick. I think the Packers bypass that. They go for defense like they always do. Get Brian Branch of Alabama because Darnell Savage is not a good safety, not as good as he needs to be. And Adrian Amos, we don't know what's going to happen with his contract. So Brian Branch, great pick for the Packers. They can get a guy maybe later on in the draft to help their wide receiver needs. So, all right, now we got Washington. Washington's going to go with Will Levis here, guys. They've been looking for solutions for a long time at quarterback, and nothing's been the right fit. So Will Levis, more of an immediate impact. I think this is a good spot for him in the sense that they have a team that's built for him. They already got the wide receiver threats. They got a great defense to help him get into a better field position when they're playing in their games. So I think this is a great pick. They need immediate impact at quarterback, and maybe they take a shot at Will Levis, or maybe they have him sit behind whoever they choose to start the first few weeks of the season, and then they decide, hey, it's time to unleash Will Levis and see what he's got. So I think that's a great pick for Will Levis, pick 16. Now we got Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh could go after a corner here. They could go after an offensive tackle. Defensive line is also a need. I don't think they let Brian Brees fall any further. They take Brian Brees here. Now we got the Detroit Lions. They're going to go with Michael Mayer here, guys. Going for another tight end in the first round like they did with TJ Hawkinson a few years back. They're replacing TJ Hawkinson after trading him to the Minnesota Vikings. This would be a great spot for Michael Mayer. I think that would drastically improve their offense after getting rid of TJ Hawkinson for 2023. Now we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They could draft a corner here, guys. They could go after an edge rusher, but I just think it might be a slight reach for all the players. I think some other team might want to get up into the spot and get their hands on a wide receiver before the Chargers, Baltimore, or even maybe Minnesota goes for one. So I think the New York Giants take this as their chance to trade up in the draft and not trade too much and not go up too high because Jordan Addison has fallen in this draft. Now I think, honestly, Jordan Addison, this might be one of the best fits for Jordan Addison, being that it's with Danny Dimes, and Danny Dimes likes those more of those slot receivers who do slant routes and who are doing drag routes right over the middle of the field. That's Jordan Addison for you. I think that's a great fit. Sorry, looking for Tampa Bay. They're outside the screen. Okay, so Giants trade up. They trade probably a 4th round pick and no, probably the 3rd round pick. Okay, so the Giants trade up. They trade the 3rd round pick and the 1st round pick to trade up. They go ahead, take Jordan Addison. Great landing spot for Jordan Addison. Still personally not my number 3 wide receiver, but I think this is what would happen in the NFL draft. Now we got Seattle. They need a defensive lineman or a corner here. They could go after an inside offensive lineman, which is what I think they do, and they reach on Osiris Torrance here. They need that offensive line to be built up a little bit more on the interior. I think that's a great pick. Now we got the Los Angeles Chargers here, guys. They could go after a tackle. We got one good one on the board here, Broderick Jones, and another one a little bit further down. We also could go after a wide receiver here, which I would think would be a great pick too. Could go after a linebacker, but I just don't think that's necessarily the greatest pick. I mean, they could, but I think a wide receiver would certainly help them for now and in the future get their hands on a franchise player like Josh Downs, my number 3 ranked wide receiver for this NFL class. I think Josh Downs would fit perfectly in this offense as Keenan Allen is on his way out to retirement. Mike Williams has not been, he's more of a deep threat guy, which is they would go hand in hand here. Josh Downs more of a slot type, short route, medium route player, where Mike Williams is more going to be medium to deep route, deep threat player, physical, red zone target. Josh Downs can still haul in catches, but perfect little 1-2 punch here for Josh Downs in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert. So that's a great pick there, guys. Now I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to go with a wide receiver here. They are suffering with their options for Lamar Jackson. They got to keep him around and start investing in this passing game. They go Kayshon Boutte. I think this is a great fit for the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. They can get some defense players later on if they'd like to. I don't necessarily think defense is their biggest issue right now. So Kayshon Boutte, great landing spot here. Now we got the Vikings. They need some passing help here. We're going to go Keely Ringo to the Minnesota Vikings. Great value there for the Minnesota Vikings. Now we got Jacksonville. They need a cornerback as well. I don't think they need wide receiver like they're saying right here. So let's go after a good old corner here, Cam Smith. Another great pick out of a team in this first round. Now we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who traded back with the Giants to this 25 overall pick. I think they need a corner or an edge rusher, even maybe a safety. So I think they're going to reach on a corner here. They're going to get their hands on Clark Phillips probably, or even Antonio Johnson. I just think corner might be a bigger need right now. So they just pick up probably Clark Phillips. Not sure I like these edge rushers right now. I'm not sure that that's an absolute priority for them right now. So Clark Phillips it is. Dallas, Jerry Jones. He loves his dynamic offensive players. We've seen him do this in the past. I think he's going to go with Bijan Robinson here. They don't re-sign Tony Pollard. They either don't have Zeke in their plans for the future, or as much a workload in the future, just kind of have him alongside Bijan, or they just kind of trade him away. All right, now we got the Buffalo Bills, guys. I could see Buffalo taking a wide receiver here, but genuinely, I don't think it's what they do. I think they go after a safety here after Damar Hamlin's unfortunate incident. Micah Hyde had his neck injury. I don't know if he's ever going to come back from that, and if he does, how well he's going to be. So they grab themselves a safety. Now the Cincinnati Bengals, they need some offensive line help. They go after Broderick Jones here in the first round. Great pick for Joe Burrow. They need that. Now we got ourselves the Saints. The Saints could use an edge rusher, a wide receiver, maybe a defensive lineman. I think they go after an edge rusher here. Maybe they're the unfortunate saps that take Lucas Van Ness. I don't have him ranked this high as of right now. Maybe I'm wrong, but they go after him. They think it's a great value pick at 29. Now we got the Kansas City Chiefs. They need themselves an edge rusher. They're going to go after BJ Ojulari. Yep, I think I said that right. It's a little bit of a mouthful. All right, I think that's a pretty good pick for the Kansas City Chiefs. They need some defensive help. Now we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles could use a running back, but I just don't think they take one right now. I think that they go after They go after an edge rusher as well. I think they like Isaiah Foskey here. They need to have some youth to replenish their veterans in the future. So they go after Isaiah Foskey there. Now we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Once again, they need a tackle. They go after Anton Harrison at number 32. Great value pick here to get more help on the offensive line. Now we got the Houston Texans once again. They could go after an offensive tackle. They could go after an edge rusher for their defense. They could go after a defensive line. I think they're going to keep on going offense because that's what they need the most revamping in right now. In my opinion, they go with DeJuan Jones. Now, Arizona Cardinals are on the clock. They just got a defensive player in the first round. I think they're going to go after something dynamic for their offense, especially for Kyler Murray down the line in the future. They draft Jahmyr Gibbs here, a great receiving back option for the Cardinals, and I think it's going to be dynamic. Chicago Bears, they need help here. A lot of help. So what do they do here? They just got a defensive lineman earlier on. They could use a wide receiver. They could go for an offensive tackle, but I think it's going to be too early to pick one now. I think they go after an edge rusher to help their defense out. They can grab a wide receiver here later on in the draft. Now we got the Los Angeles Rams here, guys. They also need an edge rusher. They need a defensive lineman. They need an inside offensive lineman. They also need an offensive tackle. all of which are not looking too available. So, you know, they don't really need a linebacker per se, although it could be one of the best available picks out there outside of maybe a wide receiver. I think they go ahead and grab a edge rusher as well. They grab Felix a little bit early here, guys, but sometimes that just happens in the NFL draft. Now we got Seattle. I think they're going to go after a defensive lineman on the interior. They are desperate for that. Bing, bang, boom. Siaka Ika. Bing, bang, boom. We got the Las Vegas Raiders once again on the clock. Actually, no, this is their first time because the Packers traded for the 7th overall picks. Remember, guys, they have not gotten themselves an offensive lineman yet. Too much of a reach for an offensive lineman there. Inside offensive lineman, which I don't think they necessarily really need right now. It's a reach. I think they're going to need to improve their passing defense with Emmanuel Forbes here in the 2nd round. Their defense is horrendous. Now we got the Carolina Panthers back on the clock again. I think they're going to go and get a nice pairing for DJ Moore in the wide receiver. Sorry, they're going to go after the nice prospect Rashee Rice. He will be able to come in and make an impact right away. Help Anthony Richardson out with another target to go to. That's a nice 2nd round pick there. New Orleans Saints, guys, they could use a wide receiver too. Do they go after one, or do they go after a defensive lineman? They got an edge rusher already. They could go after a safety. I think that might be a little early as well. They could go after an interior offensive lineman. This is a rough pick. I think here, instead of going after a wide receiver, they go after Dalton Kincaid to get a guy who might be able to make an immediate impact at tight end. They still got Michael Thomas there. I don't know what's going to happen with his future, but I think their wide receiver room is respectable right now. Respectable enough to the point that they don't take someone this early in the 2nd round. Tennessee Titans, man, they got their offensive tackle. They need a wide receiver. They could use an interior offensive lineman here and stack up their line. I think now is where they take a chance on a guy and they go after a speedster after having Treylon Burks, who's more of a middle area of the field type of guy. Jalen Hyatt, bing, bang, boom, 41 overall. Now we got the Cleveland Browns. They got to go after this linebacker, Trent Simpson. He just can't fall that much further. They could use him. Jack gets hurt all the time. They could use a 2nd option or a 2nd guy at linebacker on their team. They're going to go after Trent Simpson here. Now we got the New York Jets here. Sorry, guys. I don't know why they rated it B+. I thought it was a better pick than that in my mind, but they need an offensive tackle, but it might be a little bit of a reach. They could use a safety. They could use a lineman on the interior. I think they might go after an interior offensive lineman here for their offense. Cody Mauch. Now we got the Atlanta Falcons once again at the 44th overall pick. They got themselves a defensive player earlier on. They could use a defensive lineman on the interior. They could use a corner. It's going to be a reach there, guys. They could go after a wide receiver. I think it might be too early for another wide receiver. They could go after a tackle. It might be a little bit of a reach here. I think they go after a defensive lineman here, get their defense rolling even more. So, yeah. Packers on the clock again at 45. I think that they go with a passing option that could also be utilized in the run game. Darnell Washington, a big body for the Green Bay Packers. They need a tight end desperately, especially with Robert Tonyan being a free agent. Now, the New England Patriots are up again. They just had a wide receiver in the 1st round. They might go offense here again and get themselves a tackle and help in helping out Mac Jones. They could go after a corner, but it's a little bit early for that, looks like. I think they get their hands on Drew Sanders for another linebacker on their team. Washington, they could use a corner. Too early for that. Interior offensive line. They could go after a tackle. I think that they go with an interior offensive line for their new quarterback, Will Levis, in the 2nd round. Detroit Lions are on the clock. They went defense and offense. Now they're going to probably go after, in my mind, either a defensive lineman or a edge rusher. I think that they go after an edge rusher here, guys. Or no. Actually, I don't think they need another edge rusher in the 2nd round because they do have Aiden Hutchinson on the outside. They have that other guy they drafted like late in the draft last year who's been showing up. He's been an absolute beast. I think they go after either Mozzie Smith or Gervin Dexter. Let's just go with Mozzie Smith. All right, now we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got defense and offense here as well. They need a corner. Again, it might be a little bit early for that. They could use a linebacker, being that Devin Bush has not showed up. They got Miles Jack, yeah, but they might want to get a guy who can finally come in and really take care of business in the middle. So we got Noah Sewell, Penny Sewell's older brother. Now remember, guys, Tampa Bay traded this pick to the Las Vegas Raiders for Derek Carr in their trade. So now we're drafting for the Las Vegas Raiders, guys. Las Vegas Raiders, they are, let's see what they need again. LV. So we got them a cornerback for defense. They could use an interior offensive lineman in my mind. So, yeah, but it's not looking great. They might go after a tackle here to help out Aaron Rodgers because he's there now. They did not get this tackle because the Packers have him, so we're going to go after Darnell Wright for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now we got the Miami Dolphins on the clock for their first pick, guys. I think they're going after running back here. They're finally going to draft early with a running back. I do not like all the hate on Zach Evans here. I think he's a great pick for the Dolphins. I think he's going to shock you guys in the combine, and there are going to be NFL teams who love his combine and what he shows up with. So it's either Zach Evans for me or it's going to be Tank Bigsby. I think Tank Bigsby might be more of an all-around tool, but Zach Evans and his overall athleticism is going to be great for the Miami Dolphins. I think he fits in great there to be used in the rushing attack. Probably going to say it's a bad pick, but I disagree. So Seattle Seahawks, they got themselves a great start to this NFL draft in 2023. They could use a corner to help out their newest addition, Tariq Woolen, on the other side, but I just think it might be a little bit early for that, guys. They could use a wide receiver. I don't think they're going to do that. They could go with another defensive lineman if they wanted to. It's definitely an interesting spot for this team. Corners, I think it's a bit of a reach. Safety, they don't necessarily need. They could go after a linebacker here and reach a little bit on Henry. I think, honestly, that's what they do because Jordan Brooks is not the greatest linebacker for their team. He does rack up a lot of tackles for fantasy, but I think there's some areas where he struggles. So Henry is another guy they can throw in there for their defense that they desperately need help with defense. And they can maybe get a safety or a corner later on that could help them with depth in the draft. So Chicago Bears on the clock once again. What are we doing here? Chicago. They could go after a wide receiver. I don't know if they do that. I don't think they snag one just yet now, seeing how the draft has been going. I know they got Zay Flowers just chilling here, but I think Zay falls a little bit further. I'm not the highest on Zay Flowers. I don't think the NFL should be as high on him either. He could go there. I could easily select this for the Bears. I'm really deep in thought here, guys. They could really use more offensive line. They need a lot of help. But see, they already have Darnell Mooney, and they might just be two of the same receivers, and I feel like they might need a bigger target than that. You got an edge, you got a defensive lineman. They could use a safety, personally, in my mind. Maybe a little bit. They could go after a running back here. But I feel like they're not necessarily wanting to spend their 53rd pick on a running back. So they go after the next highest guy on this list was Zay Flowers. I'm sorry, guys, for fantasy, but that's just how it's going to be. Now we got the Chargers up again. They went with the wide receiver in the first round. They could use an offensive tackle, guys. I think that's what they snag up here. No questions asked with Jalen Duncan. Detroit Lions, man, their fourth pick of the day, having an absolute wonderful draft so far. They need an edge rusher. Potentially, they could use a linebacker. They could use a safety. I think that they need a safety here to assist their defense and their passing game. Jordan Battle or Chris Smith, whatever one you want. Then we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they also need a safety as well. Let's take a look at the offensive tackles. I don't think that's good for them. No. I think they go after a safety here as well to boost their passing defense. And they copy the Lions once again. The Giants, they went after a wide receiver here. Jordan Addison. I think that they might snag another one here if what they're looking at is not available. And I don't think that they reasonably reach on any of these other guys. I think they get themselves a guy who's going to be a very, 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 very fast riser in these NFL drafts. I think Xavier Hutchinson is going to fall onto the New York Giants, being a nice X receiver for them alongside Jordan Addison. They need those receivers. I know taking 2 receivers for their team is pretty aggressive, guys, but hey, what can you say? Now we got the good old Dallas Cowboys. I think they go with another wide receiver or another offensive player here with Parker Washington as wide receiver. I think he will work nicely with CeeDee Lamb, a big body receiver who can have good yards after catch ability, run after catch ability. He's like a Deebo Samuel build. Go check him out. I love him, guys. I think he's going to be a second-round pick. No questions asked. I know that they could use a cornerback to help them out, but I just don't think they draft any of these corners this soon. So they help out their offense. They help out Dak Prescott. I think the door is wide open for a second wide receiver in this offense. Now we got the Buffalo Bills up. They need a running back desperately, guys. I like how multifaceted Tank Bigsby is for this offense, replacing Devin Singletary. They said it's a C, but I don't think it's a C. Now we got good old Bengals here. They need a tight end desperately. They go after Luke Musgrave. Good pick. Now we got good old, I'm saying it all the time now, guys. Sorry about that. We got the good old Carolina Panthers. Jeez. It's been a long draft so far, guys, but edge rusher here. We're going to go after Derek Hall, who's fallen far. The good old Carolina Panthers are happy to get that. Now we got the Kansas City Chiefs. They could use a wide receiver here. Do I think they do that? No. They could go after a lineman and reach a little bit. I also don't think they do that. I think they pick up a defensive lineman here, guys, to help assist their defense. Now we got the Philadelphia Eagles. They are in desperate need of a running back, guys. I think Charbonnet is a great replacement for Miles Sanders. I think he's a similar build with more receiving upside, and he just needs to fine-tune his skills to be that running back that the Eagles need. I think he would fit really well into their system with Jalen Hurts. I just love this pick right here at the end of the second round. Now Chicago's sitting here thinking, hey, now it's time for us to get ourselves a running back, replace David Montgomery, get a guy cheap in the end of the second round. We're looking around. Kendre Miller goes to the Chicago Bears. I think Kendre Miller is a great player. I think the Bears could utilize him perfectly. He has a lot of tools. He can be utilized in plenty of ways, I think. I think he'll be a great dynamic player for the Chicago Bears offense that they are going to need. That rushing game is going to need to be A+. So they get Kendre Miller, sneak him in at the end of the second round. Lovely pick. He's got to go second round, guys, especially after what we might see with this combine. So now we got the Houston Texans here, guys. I think that they're going to snag Devin Achane here to help out Dameon Pierce in the passing game. They need to start down back. I think he's a great spot here for the Texans alongside CJ Stroud. They're really building up that offense. Let's go back and check that out just 1 second. Look at that offense that they're building. They need that. They can get a guy with their 73rd pick. I'm confident of it. So now we're back to the Arizona Cardinals, guys. They have had an interesting draft so far, defense and offense. They need to get their hands on a cornerback here, maybe a defensive lineman here. They could go after Kalijah. They could go after a corner here, but they do have the 96th pick, which maybe someone would follow them. They could go after an offensive lineman to help out, but I just think that they need to get the defense rolling a little bit. They've been really suffering defensively lately. Defensive line, I don't think that's a necessity right now. I think they go after Eli Ricks from Alabama. Now Denver, they need an edge rusher here, guys. They could use an offensive tackle, which I think they will grab with their second pick. They could use a linebacker, but I think it's going to be a little bit of reach. Edge rusher as well. They could go after, oh, sorry, I already mentioned that. Let's go with Zach Harrison from Ohio State, and then let's go after Blake Freeland from BYU. Bing, bang, boom. Now, the Rams were looking into getting a tackle here as well. They go after Matthew Bergeron, however you say that. Okay. Now we got the Raiders. They got the tackle from the 49ers pick, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pick, remember. So they could go after another defensive player, an edge rusher. They could go after a linebacker, maybe an interior lineman. Gosh, their defense is just so terrible that they could really use help. But is this guy going to really make an immediate impact with Rodgers off the bat in the third round? I don't think so. So I think I'm going to have to go with an interior offensive lineman, especially if they franchise tag, Josh Jacobs for the rushing attack here. So now we got the Saints again, guys. They could use a defensive lineman. They could use a wide receiver. I think right here, they could go after a wide receiver. They could go after an interior offensive lineman. It might be a little bit of a reach there, though. They could go after a safety, which would actually be, not a bad spot because of where they're ranked. This could be a nice steal for them. But reasonably speaking, I think that they snag themselves a wide receiver. They get Cedric Tillman here in the third round. So now we got this looking here, 2 A+ picks out of the Titans. It's looking fantastic. They could use an edge rusher, interior offensive lineman. That might not be a bad pick for them. I think that they go after an edge rusher here in the third round. And they get their hands on, let's go Keion White. So the Texans also need a defensive player here, guys. I think that they're going to go follow what the Tennessee Titans did here. Now the Jets are up. They could go after a safety, which they would just love to see here. J.L. Skinner being at 74. Bing, bang, boom. Now the Falcons are looking for that corner that they're waiting on. They go after Tyreek Stevenson. The Patriots also need a cornerback. They could go after a tackle, but it's a little bit early for that. They go after DJ Turner. The Miami Dolphins also need support in their secondary. They could use a safety. They could use a cornerback. I think that they go after a corner, honestly. Packers, they're sitting here with wide receiver needs, offensive tackle needs. We already got that from the Las Vegas Raiders pick, number 7 overall. We're going to go Marvin Mims here. I think he's got great potential to be a number 1 or number 2 in this Green Bay offense. Now we got the Indianapolis Colts, the 79th overall pick. Their wide receivers are looking fine. They don't need a tight end, I don't think. They could use a corner. They could use an offensive tackle, which that would be a reach. I think that they go either with a cornerback here. They could use a safety, considering their situation. Could go after an edge rusher. I think, honestly, I think they go after this defensive lineman. He falls super far, but it's just based on team needs. All right, now we got the good old Steelers. They need a cornerback yet. They could use an interior offensive lineman at pick number 80. I don't necessarily think they need a safety right now. Let's just take a shot on a cornerback for them. Detroit Lions back on the clock again. We see these other picks, all great picks so far. They could use an edge rusher now. They could use a linebacker at this pick. Not a wide receiver. I think they go after this Jack Campbell guy. Tampa Bay is on the clock. They could use a running back. I don't know if that's really their move. Let's get an interior offensive lineman for them. Seattle's on the clock here, guys. Seattle could use a corner. Is that the right pick for them? I don't know. They maybe could use a safety for depth. Really, their team is starting to look really, put together here with all these selections that they made. I think that they get a guy that could replace Tyler Lockett, or at least be a second option behind DK Metcalf when Tyler Lockett is gone. So Nathaniel Dell goes to Seattle in the 3rd round, get their offense revamped a little bit there. Miami's looking at a linebacker here, maybe interior offensive lineman. I think that they got to go with a lineman here, no questions asked. Now we got the Chargers. They could use, they don't necessarily need a running back. They really could use a linebacker. Tight end, I don't really think so. They could go after a corner for their defense. We still got Sean Tucker out there, which I don't like him falling this far. Personally, I still think he's a great prospect, and I can't see who else is available left here. I'm trying to fit him in here somewhere. So we'll see. Maybe he'll go to to Baltimore, maybe Minnesota Vikings. We'll see. So Chargers, they could use a linebacker. Do they reach on this guy? It's not too big of a reach. They don't really need a safety. Yep, let's just go ahead and get a corner. They could use defensive players. I think they do need a running back. Heck, we got Buffalo that has Tank. I'm gonna do something here that I think you guys are gonna like. So, or do I? Or do I? Because does he really fall that far in the draft? To the end of the 3rd round? I don't think so. Sean Tucker goes here, guys. I was going to have him go to the Chiefs, but I just don't think I don't think they let him go that far. All right, we got the good old Vikings. They could use a safety. Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think they need a wide receiver. They could, tackle's too far down for them. Inside offensive line, they could use that. What do we got here at defensive line? They could do that for defense. They could do that. Either, honestly, let's get them an inside offensive lineman for good old Trevor Lawrence. New York Giants, they could use a corner. I think that might not be a bad spot for them. Linebacker, could reach on a linebacker. Let's go with Julius. Dallas needs a linebacker for sure. Could use a defensive lineman. Let's go with Owen. Okay, now the Buffalo Bills, they could use an interior offensive lineman as well. Might be a little bit of a reach for them. They could use a tackle, probably a little bit of a reach there. Wide receiver, I just don't think they'd take anyone here. Edge rusher, they could use an edge rusher for the future. Let's go with Will McDonald to the Baltimore Bills. Cincinnati, they need a safety for sure. Sidney Brown is looking all right. Could do a corner, could do interior offensive lineman there. Edge rusher is not looking too hot. Let's go with a corner. I think they need a corner more, just for depth at least. Carolina Panthers, they could use a corner as well. They could use a running back. Man, it would have been nice to put somebody on the Panthers, but we had to go with an edge rusher here. Had to go defense. So we could look at a running back and see if anyone would possibly jump to the end of the 3rd round. I mean, I know like Dwayne McBride's put up there. I just don't know if that's realistic. But maybe it is. So Dwayne McBride to the Panthers. Kansas City, I wasn't having him take Sean Tucker, but I just don't think Sean Tucker falls that far. They could use an offensive tackle, but it doesn't look like they're going to do it. I think they go Sam Laporta here to back up Travis Kelce in the future. Now we got the Eagles. They really don't need a whole lot. They could use a safety for depth. I think that they go with a defensive lineman here with their veterans on their roster. Arizona Cardinals, they could use a defensive lineman as well. I'm going to do that. Washington, they could use an offensive tackle, a cornerback. I think they grab a corner here. Cleveland Browns could use an edge rusher. I don't really like the selection. Safety. Maybe they could do a safety. They could do a quarterback, but okay. So that's what the top leaderboard is looking like. Let's just get let's do Jamie Robinson here. All right, then San Fran, they could use an interior offensive lineman. This might not be a bad spot for that. Let's get one here. I'm sure the Big Ten guy might be better, but who knows? This Tampa Bay pick, remember guys, we did draft, I'm pretty sure, this guy to the Raiders. So they did not get their hands on a tackle, but it's going to be a reach for them here. They could use a tight end, but they're gone. I don't like Tucker Kraft here. I think that they go after Tanner McKee because they have Derek Carr. Maybe they spend this third-round pick on Tanner McKee to have a young guy in the works for when Derek Carr's gone. San Fran, they got 2 picks back-to-back here to round out this mock draft. Don't think they go after a quarterback here. They could go after a defensive lineman. I think that's a little bit of a reach. They could go after a corner with Jalen Jones here. They don't really need a linebacker in my mind. And then maybe they just get themselves another safety. What a draft, guys. I like that draft a lot. A+ from the Raiders. Or the 49ers. Got a lot of A+ coming out of Arizona. This should be an A+ here. We got Falcons. All A+. Ravens, I think that this would be an A+ pick here for them, or at least an A or an A-. I think that this would be at least a B. 86 for Sean Tucker is a steal. Again, here we got some A's. Tank Bigsby, C+. I think that's more of like a B, B+. Might be a little bit of a reach on Tank, but you got to get your guy when you got to get your guy. Carolina, we got A+, B+, A+, B+. This is probably more like a B- personally. This is more like a, I think this is more of like a B+. I can give that a B+. Bears, I think that this is A+ for sure. These, whatever. This might be like an A-. And then this would be certainly, I think, Kendra Miller at this spot. I know he's underrated. I think that this is at least a B, like at least a B or B-, maybe a C+. Bengals, all A+. Whatever. A's, I think that Browns need that. I think that this is an A or A+ pick here for the Cowboys. I think that this is reasonable. A little bit of a reach on Parker. Linebacker might be a B+. Broncos, A's. Detroit Lions, A+, A+. I can settle with that. Packers, Brian Branch, I think that's respectable. Remember, they got Peter. I think that's an A+ there. Houston Texans, man, A+. I think that this is an A+ as well. That's a steal. A chain, B+. I agree. He's only so utilized. He can only be utilized so much. Colts, A+ there. Don't have much to say about that pick. Oh. Jags, pretty good. Chiefs, yeah, I can see that. Remember, guys, this isn't part of their pick. I think that this is reasonable. Chargers, Josh Downs, I think that that's an A+ pick in my mind. Other ones I don't have much to say about. That's that. I think that this is an A- pick for them. Getting a mid-second round after the combine especially. Good draft. Great pick. 100%. Decent. Dalton Kincaid, I can put some respect on that. B+. Jordan Addison, I'll give it an A. A- maybe. I think that's too high for me on Jordan Addison. Xavier Hutchinson here, guys. I don't think he's going after the second round. I think he's going to be a second-round pick for sure in my mind. So I think it's at least a B. At least a B. Give me a B. All A+. Well, all A's, I should say. Zach Charbonnet, I think at the end of the second round, I think that deserves an A. I agree. Great pick for the Steelers. Obviously, this rating system's a little bit off. A+ for Miles Murphy. Remember, guys, this guy isn't part of their team. He's part of the Raiders, so we can give him to the Raiders. I think that's like an A pick for the Raiders. Okay, a lot of A+. I think that's a little bit overkill, but that's my draft, guys. Hope you enjoyed this draft. I hope you appreciated the assumptions I made. I hope you appreciated some of the picks I made, especially for fantasy football mock drafts. I think a lot of guys, we love falling into good situations, which I was trying to do, trying to maneuver the draft like that. Might not be as realistic in that sense, but hey, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you liked it. Comment if you have any questions or any suggestions. Give us a subscription if you want to stay in tune for this kind of content. All fantasy football, Dynasty especially, guys. We love that stuff. Stick with it. Cover 3 Media. We got you covered. This information's sacred. Peace out, guys.